When I was 8 years old, I was at Vacation Bible School, and all of my friends were saying that they were saved and getting baptized, and I wanted to be part of that crowd. So I said that I was saved too, and I was baptized along with everybody else. But a few years later, I had gone to my first youth summer camp, and we came home and we had our youth share night, and it was after I had already shared about our week at camp and all the ways God had moved in all of our lives, and we were getting ready to sing the invitation, and it was just made abundantly clear that I had just stood up there and shared I actually wasn't even a Christian. I had never even really understood until that moment what a sinner I really was and how desperately I needed Jesus. I've grown up in church and I've always learned about Jesus and I've always learned about God. I always knew all the right answers, but it was in that moment as we were getting ready to sing the invitation that I just realized I wasn't a Christian and I wanted to be. So I walked down front and told the pastor, and we prayed through that. I really felt different in my heart. After I became a Christian, it's very important to me to be seeking the will of God for my life. Like I said, I was 13, so I had really my whole life ahead of me at that point. And I was getting a little older and junior in high school, and that's about the time when everyone starts telling you that you need to figure out your life, you need to figure out what you're going to be, because I wanted to do what God wanted me to do. I just felt like He was never responding to me, and that was very frustrating to me because I wanted His answers. It wasn't a matter of running away from whatever His plans were for me. It was that I felt like He wasn't telling them to me. And I remember going to bed really angry and just upset and feeling like God didn't have plans for me, like God didn't care about me. So the next morning I was driving to school and had a pretty terrible car accident, hit a tree, and was unconscious. And when I woke up, someone had pulled me out of my vehicle into his own vehicle, and he was on the phone with 911. And I remember just looking down and seeing blood all over my clothes, and I could stare ahead and see my car that was very obviously totaled. And I don't know if it was really like an audible voice or if it was just in my heart, but I very clearly heard my name being called, and I was looking around and it was only me and the guy that had rescued me there. I just heard my name, and I heard what I believe is the voice of God saying, "Do you believe me now? Do you believe I do have plans for your life? I do see you. Just trust me. Just stop being mad. Do you believe me? Look at your car. You're alive. Do you believe that I have plans for your life?" And I just remember sitting in the passenger seat of that stranger's vehicle and crying and realizing that God had saved my life in this car accident, and that was because He had a purpose for me. I was taken to the hospital and was laying in one of the hospital rooms, and it just kind of clicked in my head. What God really had planned for me was to become a nurse. I was well taken care of the whole time that I was in the hospital, and I just remember wanting to be a caregiver like that for someone who had had a really terrible situation happen to them. God really kind of used all of that, the car accident and having to go to the hospital and be a patient, to show that was the plan He had for my life, to be that for somebody else one day. My first year of nursing school, one of my very dear friends was diagnosed with cancer, and that kind of got me interested in the world of cancer. So I had applied for an externship on a cancer floor. In the middle of my externship, my friend that was battling cancer actually died. And I had felt since that time that I was a junior in high school that He wanted me to be a nurse. And then it felt very clear that He wanted me to work with cancer patients. I just had such a desire to do that I do believe came from God. And so when my friend who had cancer died in the middle of my summer rotation, learning about how to be a nurse with cancer patients, I was really confused and felt like maybe that wasn't something that I should do because it was really difficult going to the floor every morning with people who looked like my friend. It was really hard to care for people and not feel attached and not feel sad. And eventually God just really kind of changed my heart and showed me that the deep love and care that I had for my friend needs to be shown to the people that I take care of too. It's, I can see him in them and think about how much I wanted him to be cared for and can care for them in the same way. And so it was a really sad thing that happened, that someone I loved so much was diagnosed with cancer and died. But at the same time, it is part of the reason why I care so much about my job and the people that I care for at my job, because I had a friend that died in the middle of it. God has really strengthened my faith through all of that. When I'm faced with the question, how's God gonna work this out, or does God even see me? I don't doubt that he sees me, and I don't doubt that he will ultimately work things together for his glory. Romans 8:28 says, God works together everything good for those who love him, and his good doesn't always equate my happiness, but it is his good. Just from the time when I was saved as a teenager to now, I am able to zoom out and realize that so many things that I used to worry about aren't even about me. It's really all about God. I'm such a small piece in his bigger, greater story. There used to be so many things that I would just feel so out of control or feel so unseen, or it all works together to point back to Jesus. I just want to do what the Bible calls us to do. Show up and love people, point everything back to God, because it just isn't about me. I feel like my testimony story is just that God has taken so many different difficult situations and made all of them work together for his good, but also really made it all work together for his glory. And that's the point of our lives. That's the point of our testimonies, is that, yeah, he loves us and he wants us to be happy, but ultimately it's about himself, and it's about how wonderful he is and how kind he is to work things out for us, that he does see us and that he does care truly about the things going on in our lives, and how much praise he deserves for that. It's really neat to see that the God of the universe, he's not just in the big moments, he's in every single little moment. They all connect and they all point back to Jesus and what he did for us. And I hope that as I grow older, I can become more and more aware of him walking beside me